Okay, well, today, thank you. I've got Chris Bright on the line from the diabetes football community in the UK. I'm here in the evening in Australia. Chris is over there in the nice sunny UK at the moment. Now, one of the great things about Inclusion Club is you get to meet and hear about initiatives such as Chris is starting now. And so Chris runs a network. It's a network called the Diabetes Football Community. Now, Chris, can you just do a bit of an intro for us and just say what is the Diabetes Football Community all about?
So it's it's started as a peer support network. So essentially, we've created a form of media, started with social media, to encourage people to share their own experiences, to feeling included within the sport, and go after. For me, diabetes is a world condition, and football is world renowned as well. So it's kind of being able to talk to people about that and get them involved in that has been a really powerful tool. For me, it was derived from my own experience. So I found it difficult in the way that it's set up in terms of, diabetes as being a bit of an unseen disability, covered by law. But when you come to approaching sport, there's not a disability sport for you to compete in as a diabetic. So you're into mainstream sport, and it doesn't, I suppose it doesn't integrate as well as I think it could, which is what brought me around to thinking about a diabetes football community. And it's for people to come and get involved with us, to get encouragement, to get empowerment, celebrate success, and learn. I mean, I my own experience and my own story, I know a bit about the condition, how to manage it, how to get the best from myself to achieve. But there's plenty of other people out there with good examples, and that's what we're trying to encourage. We're trying to encourage people to share that and get involved in the community and help us all move forward and feel more integrated when we do get involved in footballers in mainstream sport.
Yeah. Okay. Well, say that I actually am a keen footballer. Was more like these days. But say if I've just been diagnosed with diabetes, what would be one of the first things you would kind of say to me? What kind of advice would you give? I'm now worried that I won't be able to play football anymore. What would you say to me?
The first thing is, if you manage the condition well and you approach it with confidence and you approach it with an attitude where it will cause you an issue here and there, but just approach it with positivity. If you can mentally overcome the fact that this is what's happened to you, and then start thinking about it's not going to affect you if you manage it appropriately. If you manage it well, it will not stop you doing anything. That's I think the first thing that I wanted to hear which came out of a practitioner's mouth was, it's not going to stop you playing football. You just have to manage it and work and learn and work it out as to how to get yourself there and on that pitch. But it shouldn't stop you from doing anything.
Yeah, okay. Well, you almost answered my next question straight away, because on your video it says, you come up with a great quote on your video, say, if you have the right attitude towards it, then you're always going to succeed in there. But what, say if I've got I'm a bit of a worrier, so I'm thinking some of the technical things about diabetes is going to stop me doing this, and maybe, I can have a good attitude, but, what's going to... these sorts of information and resources that you can give to assure people that, this is absolutely fine if you manage it right.
Yeah, so from my perspective, we look for ways of, I'd like to encourage people to come and talk to us, encourage them into the community to discuss what it is that's holding them back. There's a lot of stories I've heard around fear of encountering a hypoglycemia, which is often what occurs when you're competing in sport with diabetes, and it's breaking down that barrier. What is it about that you're scared of? And then we can learn and work with people to help them manage around that. So for me, I would suggest, if somebody was fearful of hypoglycemia in sport, let's just make sure their glucose levels are a little bit higher when they are approaching sport, and then encourage that positive experience, because then if they are a little bit higher, there's no doubt that they'll play or train and they won't find that hypoglycemia that they're worried about, because we've approached it and allowed them to then find the positivity in sport, because they haven't had the issue. I think that's the way that we are working, is that we're encouraging people in, and we're almost coaching, and from my experience, from Noel's experience, and then sharing other experiences which help people look at and get I suppose get over some of the fears or some of the worries that they might have when they're approaching the sport.
And also, the great thing about what you're doing is you're creating a network, an online network where people can say, well, I'm not on my own here. There's other people out there who can share their story who are probably in a very similar situation.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the most powerful things about it. It's watching everybody else become involved in it and growing it, but it's not a selfish point of view. It's like we're all growing together. We're all sharing our own experiences to help everybody else. A big thing for me is acceptance of the condition, and sometimes it takes people quite a long time to get over the fact they've got diabetes. With something like TDFC, I find it a real strength that what we can do is almost make it feel, cool is a bit of a, but make it feel like you're part of something, a club, or, that kind of feel where it's really accepted to be diabetic, almost positive to be diabetic, because we've made this network about them. And I think that, for me, that's one of the most positive things I've seen is being able to do that and see that evolving. And within 6 months, we started in February and we're now in August. It's been amazing to see it.
And how do people get in contact? I know you've got the website set up and stuff, but how do they come in part of your network?
So there's obviously the Twitter account, which was the first thing that we started. For me, it's more, that's kind of in the moment. So there's a lot of we follow a lot of diabetic accounts, some of the big ones, some of the charities, and then some people that are quite vocal and quite a lot of followers already on social media, and get involved in the conversation. And then once we get involved in the conversation, people tend to find us, and then there's a part of it around sharing my own story, which has helped, because my own story is an interesting one for quite a few diabetics to look at. And then also encouraging, like Noel sharing her story, and then bringing people in to share theirs, and we put it all over social media. And then because of the relationships we're developing, people will share what we're talking about, and it reaches new people, and all the time people are coming into contact with it. And then asking questions, which is the best thing, because they're engaged then. They're in and they're engaged in what we're trying to do. And for me, it's about football right now, because that was where my strength is, my sport. But the questions that will come in don't necessarily have to be about football.
I was going to ask that,
It's a starting point and a premise, because it fills that void, that grey area that I believe it's in. But it's heavily into football, because that was the strength that I've got and my sport. But I see a lot of people come and talk to me, and we talk and we coach people that are not involved in football. So it's really positive. We just and the growth of what we've done has just been brilliant.
Well, we come on, continue with that, Ray. Where do you think, you just told me before we went on air about going across to Portugal and meeting up with a team that's set up there. What do you think is going to evolve in your backyard in say 2 or 3 years' time?
It's really, really interesting. I've got sights, as you can imagine, set quite high. But that's me as a person. I would like to try and push myself. There's some key things going on for me personally, which I think will help. I'm going back to university to be able to spend more time working on TDFC alongside my masters in September.
Nice.
And I'm going back to the University of Worcester, which I'm sure you know. About. So I'm going back to do my masters and do a project around TDFC. So it's going to be very interesting to immerse myself even more in it, which is a really positive step. And hopefully, with being in within the environment that the University of Worcester is for inclusivity in sport, I think that's going to be a huge opportunity for the community, for us to try and grow it together as well. There's other things around Portugal and reaching out, doing networks. Noelle's obviously in America, based in Virginia, so there's an opportunity with where she is to develop stateside. The opportunity in the UK is I'm currently talking to quite a few of the big charities, and it's developing all the time. I'm networking with them, and the opportunities are starting to come in now as to sharing what we're up to. I recently shared a blog post that I'd written for Diabetes UK, which they put on their blog site.
Nice, yeah.
So it's kind of, I do a lot of outreaching from writing my own blog and my own experience and tailoring it to different audiences. And it's just growing and then seeing what the opportunity is. There is another thing, a big thing that we want on the horizon, which is called Dia Euro, which I don't know if you've heard of, but it is it's like the European Championships for football, but for futsal, and it is for diabetic participants.
Excellent. Yeah.
So I believe it started in 2012, and I'm hoping, with a bit of help from a few people, we can put in to 2018 the first team from the United Kingdom.
Nice, yeah.
Liaising with TDFC.
That's a good goal, isn't it? Yeah.
Big good goal, and hopefully with the network that we're creating and the support that we're getting, I've got a few contacts as well that we can pull on, so hopefully we can get to that and make that a big thing for next year.
Yeah, cool, excellent. Well, I might catch up with you next year because I'm thinking of coming across for the Euro UCAPA conference that's in Worcester middle of next year, so I hope to get there for that.
Hopefully I'll meet you there because I'm hoping to go. So.
Excellent. Well, okay, Chris. We'll call it. We'll have more information on the website Inclusion Club about this, and all the links as well for people to check that out as well. But I wish you all the very best with that, Chris, and many thanks for joining us.
No, thank you very much for having me. Great opportunity to come on and talk to you, and I hope to meet you next year, Peter.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah. Also, I had mentioned being an Aston Villa supporter, which I read about. Yeah, there is a connection there, of course, because the Aston Villa, the Australian captain, is Mile Jedinak, who plays for Aston Villa. So
he does. Yes. Yeah. No, well, that's a big pull for you then, Peter.
Yeah.
We can if you come over early enough, you can watch Aston Villa, watch Jedinak.
Yeah, you don't want to put me off. No, that's good. No.
Yeah, we're not very good at the moment.
Yeah, he's struggling a bit, but he's a great player. He's our captain here. Okay, well, thanks very much, Chris. We'll call it quits there.
Thank you.